Imagine a betrayal so deep, so unthinkable that it comes from your absolute closest friends, your best friends. It's just a chilling thought. Today, we're taking a deep dive into exactly that kind of story, the tragic case of Skylar Neese. Our goal here is to really unpack the complex layers of what happened. We want to go beyond just the headlines, look at the facts, the investigation, which was painstaking, the legal outcomes, and, even a lasting change that came out of this awful tragedy. We're using the sources you provided to give you the clearest picture possible.
Right. And then this isn't just about retelling a sad story. It's really an exploration of human behavior that's most disturbing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And also the limitations of the systems meant to protect people, and sometimes the really unexpected ways the truth finally comes out. We'll be looking at how all these little details connect to a bigger picture, giving us insights into criminal justice and how society responds to things like this.
Okay, so let's start with Skylar herself. Skylar Annette Neese. She was, 16? An honor student in Star City, West Virginia, worked part-time at Wendy's, had ambitions of becoming a criminal defense attorney. She was also an only child, Mary and Dave Neese's daughter. Just a bright kid, by all accounts. But what makes this story so devastating right from the beginning?
Well, it's who did this to her. It was her supposed best friends, Sheila Eddy and Rachel Elizabeth Shoaf. Skylar's own dad described them as being like our daughter. I mean, that close. Eddy and Skylar have been friends since they were kids, like 8 years old. Met at some local program.
Snack, yeah.
Right, the Shack. And Shoaf, she met them later in high school, University High. All three went there. So the betrayal coming from that close, it's just the first really hard thing to grasp here.
Absolutely. So let's set the scene. It's July 5th, 2012. Skylar gets home from her shift at Wendy's. Later that night, or rather early morning, July 6th, around 12:30 a.m., surveillance video shows her leaving through her bedroom window. She gets into a light-colored sedan. But the details of her leaving, that's what was immediately strange, wasn't it, which she didn't take?
Exactly. She left her cell phone charger behind, her contact lenses, the solution. And crucially, her bedroom window was left open.
Yeah.
All of that, looking back, points to her expecting to come right back. It just didn't scream, run away.
Not at all. And what actually happened that night? Well, it came out later in Rachel Shoaf's confession, and the planning involved was just meticulously dark.
Oh, it was. They had cleaning rags, bleach, wet wipes, a shovel, even clean outfits for halfway, all hidden in Eddy's car trunk, and knives wrapped in towels tucked under their arms. The level of preparation by two teenagers, it's incredibly unsettling. It just points to this profound lack of empathy. It wasn't just a spur-of-the-moment argument.
That forethought is terrifying. So they drive out to this spot in Brave, Pennsylvania, a place they knew, right? Where they'd smoked pot before. And once they're there, Sheila and Rachel pretend they need to find a lighter, which gets Skylar to turn her back. And then? Well, what happened next is just horrific.
It truly is. They counted to 3, apparently, and then just attacked Skylar. Stabbed her. She tried to run, but Shoaf tackled her, kept attacking. Eddy joined in. And there's this shocking detail where Skylar actually managed to grab Rachel's knife and stabbed her, Shoaf, above the ankle.
Oh my God.
Shoaf claimed she stopped attacking then, but said Eddy kept going until, her words, Skylar's neck stopped making weird sounds. The sheer brutality against a friend. It's just hard to comprehend.
And after that horror, they, tried to bury her?
They tried, but the ground was too hard, too rocky. So instead, they just covered her body with branches, dirt, leaves. Then they changed into those clean clothes they brought, wiped themselves down, wiped the car, and just left. Like they were trying to erase it all and go back to normal.
Unbelievable. So with Skylar missing, the focus obviously shifts to finding her. But the initial police response, that created a real problem, didn't it?
It did. Initially, she was classified as a runaway. And because of that, a full 48 hours went by before an Amber Alert was issued. Her case didn't tick all the boxes, specifically the one requiring belief of an abduction.
Right.
It wasn't just red tape, it really highlighted a blind spot. Assuming a teen is a runaway could delay crucial, maybe life-saving action. That mistake, thankfully, led to changes later on.
That's such an important point about the system itself. So while police were chasing down some false leads, Skylar's parents were just desperate, posting flyers everywhere. Eventually, the police figured out the sedan Skylar got into belonged to Sheila Eddy. What was Eddy's story at first?
Well, Eddy admitted picking Skylar up, but she claimed she just dropped her off about an hour later.
A lie.
A total lie. Investigators started seeing inconsistencies, but the case kind of stalled for months. The real break didn't come until much later.
And it came from an unexpected place. Almost 6 months after the murder, Rachel Shoaf had some kind of breakdown.
Yeah, a nervous breakdown. Her mother called 911, and Shoaf could apparently be heard screaming in the background.
Wow. And that led to the confession.
Pretty directly. After about 5 days in a psychiatric hospital, Shoaf asked to go straight to her lawyer's office. And there, she confessed to the whole thing. It seemed like the pressure, the secret, just became too much for her to bear.
So Shoaf's confession blows the case wide open, but what about the motive? The reason why? What did she say initially? Because it was chillingly simple.
It really was. She first said it was just because they didn't like her and didn't want to be friends with her anymore.
Against a best friend.
Exactly. It felt so inadequate, so disturbing for such a brutal act. Maybe suggesting something deeper she couldn't articulate then, or just pure malice.
And her confession, it led investigators to Skylar.
Yes, directly. On January 16th, 2013, they found Skylar's body, less than 30 miles from her home, just over the state line in Pennsylvania. Wayne Township, Greene County.
And just to add another layer of pure cruelty to this, Skylar's dad mentioned that Sheila Eddy, one of the murderers, had actually helped the family hand out missing person flyers.
Yeah.
The audacity of that. Helping search for the person you killed, it's just unfathomable for the family.
It really speaks to a chilling level of coldness, doesn't it? And manipulation.
Yeah.
Keeping up that facade of being a concerned friend. It just twists the knife of betrayal even further.
Okay, let's shift to the justice side of this. What happened legally, starting with Rachel Shoaf.
So on May 1st, 2013, Rachel Shoaf pleaded guilty, second-degree murder. She was later sentenced to 30 years in prison, but with eligibility for parole after serving 10 years.
And digging into the court records, something really disturbing came out. Apparently, other students had actually overheard Shoaf and Eddy talking about the murder plot beforehand.
That's right.
But they just dismissed it as a joke, didn't report it. It makes you wonder, how often do we dismiss dark comments like that?
It's a really stark reminder, isn't it? How sometimes the most awful intentions get hidden behind what seems like jokes or just, crazy talk, especially with teenagers. It highlights the potential danger of not taking things seriously, even if they sound unbelievable. A lost chance for intervention, tragically.
Now, Shoaf did express remorse, apologized at her sentencing, later at parole hearings, and there was evidence, like a diary entry she wrote the day after the murder.
Yeah, that diary entry was significant. She wrote pages about the Skylar situation, asking God for forgiveness for what happened that night and all these lies.
But years later, at a parole hearing, the motives seemed to become clearer, confirming long-held speculation.
Yes, that was at her May 2023 parole hearing. She'll finally confirm that she and Eddy had been in a romantic relationship and that this relationship caused tension with Skylar.
And wasn't that backed up by Skylar's own writing?
It was. Skylar's own diary from back in fall 2011 described a sleepover where all three girls were drinking, and Skylar apparently witnessed Eddy and Shoaf having sex.
Wow, that detail from Skylar herself adds such a personal, complex layer to understanding the tensions there.
It really does. And you see this contrast. Shoaf claimed she felt immediate remorse, crying, vomiting after the attack. But Sheila Eddy
Nothing.
has never shown any public sign of remorse. As for parole, Shoaf was denied in 2023 and again in 2024. Her next hearing is set for 2026. Though with good behavior credits, her estimated release is actually around 2028, which coincidentally is the same year Sheila Eddy first becomes eligible for parole.
Right. Let's talk about Eddy's path. She was identified publicly as the second killer in September 2013, tried as an adult. Indicted for kidnapping, first-degree murder, conspiracy, pleaded not guilty at first.
But then she changed her plea, pleaded guilty to first-degree murder. That was likely to avoid facing additional charges over in Pennsylvania, where the murder actually happened.
Her sentence.
Life in prison, but with mercy, which under West Virginia law for juvenile offenders tried as adults means she's eligible for parole after 15 years. Hence that 2028 date.
Yeah. So two very different journeys through the legal system and seemingly very different responses to their crime.
Definitely. And while that dealt with the criminal justice aspect, Skylar's case had another major impact. It exposed a serious flaw in the system designed to find missing kids, which led to Skylar's law.
Right. What was that specific gap in the Amber Alert system that her case brought to light?
It was that initial classification. Because she was first thought to be a runaway, not necessarily abducted, that triggered a mandatory 48-hour waiting period for teenagers before an alert could go out.
Even if there were signs of danger.
Exactly. The criteria were too rigid. It didn't allow for situations where a kid was clearly in danger, even if abduction wasn't confirmed yet.
But action was taken pretty quickly to fix that, which is, frankly, somewhat remarkable for legislative processes.
It was swift. A state legislator from the Neese family's district introduced Skylar's Law. It modified West Virginia's Amber Alert plan to allow immediate public announcements whenever any child is reported missing and believed to be in danger. It removed that requirement about suspected kidnapping being the only trigger.
And it passed easily.
Unanimously. Yeah. Through the House of Delegates in March 2013, the Senate in April, Governor Earl Ray Tomblin signed it into law that May. So out of this terrible tragedy came a lasting legacy, a change that could genuinely help save other children.
We've certainly covered a lot of ground here. This deep dive really took us through, well, an appalling betrayal between friends, a really complex investigation that took months to figure out, and finally, a significant legal change.
Yeah, the key things that stand out are just the devastating power of secrets, how crucial critical thinking is when looking at initial reports in any investigation, and how one family's absolute worst nightmare actually led to a positive change protecting others.
It really leaves you thinking, doesn't it? What responsibility do we have, as people, as a society? When we hear something worrying or suspect something's wrong, even if it's dismissed as just a joke, how do these small, everyday details, these seemingly normal friendships, sometimes hide the absolute darkest truths imaginable?